Okay. We are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to one of the first streams I've done, I think in about 6 months or so. It's been a little bit, but trying to get back on the grind here a little bit. So building up hold on, gotta close some stuff real quick. Alright, dog's walking in and out, messing up my setup here. But what's going on, everybody? So we're going to be building up a $500 gaming PC. Yes, still is doable in today's markets. A bit of a difficult task. But if you guys were with me in my last live stream, which I did about a month ago, so prior to that, it's been a little bit. My content has been kind of here and there. I'm trying to get back into it. Been really busy with lots of other things in life, so... But just to quickly hit on what we're doing tonight, we are building up a gaming PC that you can build from scratch still. There's some sacrifices that you have to make when it comes to building a PC at this price point, but definitely is doable. And I definitely suggest to you guys, if you want to know where these parts have come from, all this came from our live stream that we did about last month. I wanted to get this build done before, but I actually went off to Hong Kong for work, and still partially feeling the effects of that, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to do anything but really focus on the real job. So anywho, just a quick shout out to folks that are in the chat that I see so far right now. I got Reluctant Hero back again. Sir, thanks for joining up. I noticed you've been joining my streams and content for quite some time now. He says, rocking the budget case by that one company. Yeah, that's okay. We'll get into every part. That just got kind of everything up here in front of you, everybody. But we'll talk about each and every part as we're kind of going through the process. A $500 budget PC, I'd imagine, is not going to take me too long to build. So, I guess on that note, let's get started. And I'm just going to kind of clear my way here as I normally do with most of the builds that I do. So, we're going to get some of the core components ready for the build that we need right off the rip, and kind of get everything else off to the side, including the case that Reluctant Hero is talking about, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. Okay, get this guy over here. Perfect. All right, so like with any build, we're just gonna start right off the rip with the motherboard. So this is a bit of a an interesting field of market that we're in right now. I'm gonna go for both cams here. So it's real tough to find an Intel motherboard for the price point that I paid for this motherboard. And again, as I mentioned, if you guys, I gotta fix this real quick. Hold on, it's driving me nuts. There we go. The top of my head was chopped off. But it's really difficult to find cheap motherboards. B450s used to be like the king budget motherboards. They still, I guess, kind of are if you can actually find them at the price points that I used to get these for, which were like anywhere between like $40 to $60, even brand new, for like cheapo ones, which unfortunately this is a cheapo one because it's what we had to go with. Again, I'm going to refer back to the other live stream that we had going previously where we actually picked out the parts together, and actually I think Reluctant Hero, you helped point out some things if I recall correctly. So definitely difficult to find these types of motherboards. They are a dying breed. Obviously the B550s are out, and that's also an AM4 motherboard, and we've moved on to AM5, so we're in a couple generations now. But the problem is, if you're wanting to do a $500 build, well, good luck. So it's kind of what you're forced to go with, and for the most part, I would say the best places to find these types of motherboards now, you really can't jump on Amazon too easily. Sometimes you can find some deals where like maybe some seller has some extra stock, but I had to get this one from eBay, and I believe that's what we also found on the live stream too. I found one on eBay for around $60, and they ended up paying $68 for this, and it's a used motherboard, but it's still well preserved and in the box correctly. All right, so I'm gonna get this guy open here, and like I said, it's a bit raw, so like this is how it came. Like I've done zero testing, so hopefully it works. But this is basically what I got in the motherboard. So or in the motherboard box. So normally we'd have the bracket. I hope we have the bracket. I do have backup ones if I need them. Okay, we do have the bracket, the back plate that will go underneath the motherboard. And we do have what is probably my bigger worry to not have in the box sometimes when you're buying used motherboards is the I/O shield. So we got that. So we're in pretty good shape. I think because we are going to be using an AMD stock cooler, kind of part of the work is already done. The brackets that we normally unscrew to get this thing ready for the cooler is already done for us. So that's kind of nice. Now with this motherboard, it's an ASRock B450. Some things I don't like about it. Obviously, we got 2 DIMM slots. Like finding 4 DIMM slot boards, like usually my go-tos are the Gigabyte boards. It was really difficult to find. Like I said, the B450 is a dying breed, and so kind of had to, beggars couldn't be choosers here. And we're on a pretty stripped down board too. There's no Wi-Fi, so that would be something that would have to be like a USB add-in for somebody that would be building with this. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend this motherboard based on what we picked out prior while doing the previous live stream. It's possible we might be able to find a different deal, but it's just kind of like depends on the time of when you're looking for parts too. Obviously people will be selling things at certain times and not be selling things at certain times. So that's what kind of makes things difficult about finding more of the scarce used parts. I'm trying to get this back plate on here. Come on. And the same situation kind of has evolved with especially GPUs too, which we'll get into later. All right, Reluctant Hero says yes. Okinos, the bane was on the tip, or the name was on the tip of my tongue. Yep. So we'll get into that. Okay, so like I said, since we got some of the work done for us with the CPU, now this is claimable used, but it's really in really good condition. So either it was cleaned up really nice, or maybe it was like an open box with some missing parts, because I don't really see signs of wear on this motherboard, which is nice. So we might have lucked out at least in that regard. So grab my knife here. That way we can get this CPU box opened up. So now moving on to the next part, the CPU. We've got the Ryzen 5. It's a 4500, so it's a bit of a different CPU. I think I've used it once before in a build video, but the real reason we chose this CPU was strictly because of cost. This is a 6-core, 12-threaded processor on the AM4 platform. I've seen some recent videos of, I think, some folks doing budget builds on YouTube where they're using the kind of, I guess, the bigger brother, I guess if you want to call it, the 5500. But basically what this is kind of a V-cache stripped down CPU. So alternatively, like a Ryzen 5 3600 would, I think, is about right at the same kind of performance level. So Ryzen 5500, you know, you can maybe expect something around, not quite a 5600 obviously, but maybe somewhere in between a 5600. So it's basically where the silicone lottery wasn't hit too well with producing these chips. There's leftover silicone, so the producer, AMD, you know, pushed them out with a lesser V-cache, and what it makes for is a $65 6-core 12-threaded processor that is unlocked. So there is some potential, like, I know not necessarily with this motherboard because there isn't a whole lot of power delivery, but if you're considering this type of CPU, then you might be able to get a little bit more out of it, just knowing that it's got the limited V-cache. So again, I would more ideally like to pair it with a better motherboard. So yeah, I mean, I think I kind of explained it. Our OS asked why not a 3600 or a which is 5500. Basically cost. These, you can get these brand new for 65 bucks. You might be able to find a 3600 for around that price. Definitely not brand new for sure. 3600, you'll probably end up just getting like maybe the chip. So the idea here was also to get a cooler, because like I said, $500 is extremely limited budget. And if you guys were on the build hunt stream, you would know that for sure getting a every part was really tough to do. So idea here is, you know, also get a cooler along with our chip. So you could do some real tough searching and might be able to find a 3600. You're not going to find a 5500 for $65 like I did. Those go for around like $90. They're a little bit under 100. Still a good buy if you want to spend the extra 30 bucks, which, you know, I would definitely suggest if $500 isn't your extreme limit. The idea here is we're trying to hit that $500 limit. All right, so let's open up the socket here. Let's go close in on overhead. All right, I'm going to grab our CPU out of the clamshell. Always try to open these upside down so they don't come tumbling out. And reach in there and grab it. And a little trick that I've introduced on my channel many times. The CPU always installs Ryzen reading downwards like this towards this side of the board, your IO side of the board. So also, you know, line up your triangles, which I'm doing right here. That'd be your #1 indicator. All right, little wiggle, she's in. All right, so like we mentioned, we have some of the work done because the brackets that held in the back plate didn't come off my motherboard because I bought it used. Now the CPU, as I mentioned, I bought new, so we have a little bit of some new parts in the mix, which also means a brand new cooler to throw on top. Now this should be plenty fine of a cooler, the stock cooler. I mean, they're decent coolers for low power chips, especially ones that are a little bit more stripped down power chips than, I think these things are only a 65 watt chip. Someone correct me if I'm incorrect on that, but I think that's about where it's at. So for 65 watt chip, you know, these little AMD Wraith coolers are completely fine. I think that's what they're, stealth coolers. I don't know, I should have known, but I don't really remember. Great thing too here is we got pre-applied thermal paste, so there's no reason to do anything but just stick the sucker on. So that's what we'll be doing. I'm just getting it lined up. Get the screws lined up here. Okay, grab my screwdriver, there it is. All right, just with some even pressure on top of it, start the screws a little bit in a diagonal fashion so that way it does go down on the board nice and evenly, which I'm doing here. And then once you hear that kind of grinding noise, that is the springs that are tensioning down on the bracket, and they'll eventually stop, and then you know you're done. Let's get this guy in here. All right. ArtOS says true. I admit 5500 was a stretch. Yeah, you can get them so like you can get a 5500 for under $70 or around $70. I think the last time I checked they're around like $80, $90 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, if you can get a 5500 for the same price, go for it. Like I said, the idea was we were targeting a decent CPU. The Intel options were just not going to work for under like basically $75. So we got a good deal and went with it. All right. Micro Center recently opened a new store 1 hour north of me. They sell $70 USD 5500s all day. Well, that's Micro Center's a bit of a different animal there. I actually do have a Micro Center in my town. I live in the DFW, Texas area. But usually when I try to do content for you guys, I try to exclude Micro Center. I mean, I definitely say go there if you can, because they have generally the best deals like what Reluctant Hero's talking about. But not everybody's got a Micro Center. Some people don't live anywhere near one, so they can't take advantage of that. So my whole shindig on this was basically try to give you guys a repeatable option of what's doable out there that isn't limited to, you know, driving several hours to a Micro Center, or if that's even possible for you to do it at all. Now, if you do live near one, definitely go explore that, because you can definitely find some good deals. Which, for my own personal use case, yeah, I definitely explore that. All right, just gonna get some of this CPU stuff out of the way now that we are done with it. Toss this in the box. Just set this off camera real quick, and I just dropped everything I was trying to move. That's all right. All right, CPU is installed. Just double check my screws real quick. I'm pretty sure I got that down all the way while I was blabbering. And what you guys might have not seen there was we also got the CPU fan plugged in, so we're good to go on that. And now it's all ready. At least the CPU is. A couple more things to do on the board. This is going to go by pretty quick because this is a simple build. I'm going to grab my RAM kit next. Let's see. Cunny says, I'm trying to find an XFX Mercury 9070 XT in white that ships globally, but I can't find any sites that sell it. It's only on Best Buy and Micro Center, but those don't ship globally. Amazon, yeah, see, there's a reason right there. Like, that's why I try to find things that kind of are more mainstream. But yeah, good luck with that. That sounds like Cunny. Sounds like you're trying to find a diamond in the rough. Sounds like a beautiful card, but a brand new card and it's white in a particular brand. You know, that's going to be tough to find. But yeah, I'm not sure of a global location where to go to for that. Okay, let's see here. I just kind of skipped right into the RAM here. So what we got here is, I know this was a suggested part from the live stream, the King Bank. I think one of the guys here that's possibly in the chat right now might have suggested this. I've never used them before, but it kind of pretty much checked all the boxes. You know, is cheap RAM. I believe we only got it for like $22 to $23. It's 3200 megahertz, not incredibly fast, but for a really budget system like this, you know, it's completely fine. Got a little bug on my table. And definitely something you can always upgrade to. Like, you go up to, I would say, you're really probably not going to notice much with a $500 system, like spending the money on going to like a faster speed RAM. It wouldn't hurt. You might see a few FPS changes if you're really benchmarking things, but with a 2 DIMM slot board like this, I would say if you're looking to upgrade RAM, upgrade to like 2 16 gig DIMMs, because these are 2 8 gig DIMMs, because obviously you're limited with just 2 DIMM slots. Now, 2 DIMM slots is not the end of the world. I know it's kind of like it's almost like a baseline measurement for people that would say, okay, that's on the cheap end. And typically you do find 2 DIMM slot boards like this to be more on the cheaper end. But I mean, you can send it all the way up to 64 gigs. So you can buy 2 32 gig DIMMs if you want, if you really want to max it out. But I think that might be overbuying for this type of platform anyway. Hey, Blind Tech, how's it going, man? Good to see you jumping in. Yeah, doing pretty good, sir. How about you? Hopefully everything's going well for you and your content creation. He's Blind Tech's also a tech content creator, kind of does some of the same similar things that I do. So thanks for joining in on us. Oh, over 1,000 subs. Awesome, man. When'd you hit that? That's fantastic news. Now you can start making that YouTube money. All right, we're going to drop these DIMM slots in, and actually this matches out pretty good, the kind of like whites, grays, and blacks, or silvers and blacks with the board. These King Bank DIMMs should do us fine here. Sure, all we got to do is just make sure we're going in the right way. Nope, I was going right the first time. Get in there. All right. So listening for the 2 clicks. Oh yeah, these boards that don't have the other latch down part of the memory typically don't make a click noise. And toss the other guy in. Face it the right direction. I do wish, that's one, I guess, critique I have here is can't really see the logo of the memory here. It's facing inwards, as you can see right there, towards the CPU, and then we got like the label facing outwards. So a little minor critique, but honestly I think that looks pretty good in terms of at least aesthetically matching this board. That was kind of my aim. That's why I also, and obviously being only, I think around $22, $23 for this DIMM kit. It was off Newegg, brand new. So the only used part so far is this this motherboard, or if it is even used. Like I said, it looks like it's in fantastic shape. So all right, yeah, congrats, Blind Tech, man. That's awesome for you. I know how you feel with hitting that 1K sub mark. I felt like back in the day, although I talk like I'm some old YouTuber, and I guess I've been doing this a while, but I haven't really been growing really fast. And that's probably my own, you know, I got other things that contributed to that. But I remember trying to hit 1K and how it felt like you just, you know, just scaled up a mountain by getting to that. So congrats to you. All right, I'm trying to do my best job of keeping my area clean, because usually after a stream like this, my office / studio, it looks like a tornado swept through it. So what are the specs? Okay, well, I mean, that's why you guys should hang out and watch me build, because I'm talking about every part as we go, so you will know as we get there. But if you are just now jumping in, I'll tell you what we've done so far. So what we got is a B450M, kind of a basic motherboard from ASRock. Oops, I gotta put my overhead cam on. From ASRock, it's a non-Wi-Fi board. It's got 2 DIMMs. It's not fantastically, you know, amazing in terms of, but like for $68, it feels weird even having paid that much for this board, because I know I've gotten way more out of boards for $68 in the past. But you know, the idea was we had to make our $500 build spend threshold. So this is what I found, and I looked high, low, left and right, because after the stream where we picked out the parts, I didn't immediately buy them, which was also probably a detriment to me, because parts are going like crazy. It's a roller coaster ride in terms of price. So I should have just bought right then and there, because I believe we found the same board for a little bit less during the stream. And then as far as other parts that are on the build, obviously we've just got a stock AMD cooler here. Underneath we have a Ryzen 5 4500 6-core 12-thread processor we got for about $65, and the RAM we just discussed for about $20 to $24. King Bank 16 gigs at 3200 megahertz. So not amazing out of this world specs, and you know, that's kind of the temper your expectations to that, because a $500 build is not going to be an amazing out of this world in terms of specs. So all right, T-Team says, is this a real stream? Last time I checked, it was. Yes, I am doing this live from my studio, building a $500 gaming PC. All right, so on to the next part that we got to put on the board before we get everything ready and basically into the machine. We've got our memory, we've got our storage. See if we get a better shot on that. A little too bright. There we go. A Timetech 1 terabyte NVMe drive. So this was one alteration that I made with the original stream. The original stream, I think we found a different 1 terabyte drive for a little bit less. By the time I went to go buy that drive, I think it was a Clev or something like that. It was too much and it was too expensive. I'm gonna fix this here. Oops, this is annoying me. There we go, a little more in screen. So it went for like $3 or $4 more, and this one was coming in at the same price. So I've used Timetech before. You know, again, a budget part. But the main thing here being is it's a 1 terabyte drive. I didn't want this to be a 512, especially only having one NVMe slot. I didn't want it to basically quickly expire on us. So wanted to make sure we at least had a 1 terabyte, at least to go into the motherboard socket. So that's what we got here. And now that I'm thinking about it, I gotta see if I got some M.2 screws to lock this sucker down. Let's see if we got lucky here inside the motherboard box. Nope, no. So that's part of, well, that's another missing thing that I've got with this used motherboard. So that's the risk you take. Now, I do have backup screws, so let me go grab my tool kit here and grab one. That is a bit of the risk if you want to take, if you want to try to save some bucks on buying a used motherboard. Like I said, you never know what you're going to get, even if the pictures are good. Some things like this, even though it looks like the motherboard is brand new, I'm missing, you know, the backplate screws, and then I'm missing a M.2 screw. Luckily for me, who's been building PCs basically since I was a teenager, I got plenty of screws. So let me just get an M.2 screw. I got a little baggie that's got about, I don't know, maybe like 6 of them in there. So definitely something I would suggest for any PC builders out there is get yourself an assorted kit like this for all your screws as you do more builds, because you'll end up in a scenario like this where you might need something, and if you didn't hold on to anything, then you might be in trouble. So we're not in trouble tonight. We're doing good. We are okay. All right, so just need to grab one of those out of my handy dandy screw kit and get this guy out of the way. And that's only one of them. I got like a whole drawer for them. So I got like 3 or 4 more of those. So that was just the one that was on top. So, all right. So what's going on? What are you guys talking about? Is this a real stream? Okay, yeah. I mean, I said, yeah, my watch time isn't near 3K yet, but okay, it'll get there. Blind Tech, it'll get there. Yeah, that's definitely something that has to build up over time. And then Ardo says that, I mean, algorithm plays, it's part 2 so far. I don't think you're doing anything wrong to be a bad YouTuber. Oh yeah, he's just talking about it. Yeah, I mean, my consistency is my enemy, really, when it comes to YouTube stuff. Sometimes I'll log off of work and I don't want to do anything at night to work on my YouTube channel because I'm too tired and I don't want to do it. So I guess the perk of it being a hobby, right? I can invest the time I want to whenever I want to into it. All right, so let's get this drive in here. Go main overhead so we can get a little bit closer here. There is a slot right here, and we're just gonna match up the keyed notched end of the drive right here to what corresponds on the motherboard, which looks like, I gotta flip it over? That's interesting. Oh no, never mind. I was gonna say, that's crazy. Okay, it is upside down, but that's right. Facing upwards, I should say. All right, now let's find, I need a smaller screwdriver to get that M.2 screw down. Hey Jasper, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining. Appreciate you hanging out with me tonight while we build a PC. So take some notes, because you got to plug in some cables to your PC. Maybe this will help you out. All right, we're just holding down this NVMe drive real quick to get the small little tiny screw down on it. And there we go. The only time I'm going to need my extra screwdriver. By the way, also if you're to be a seasoned PC builder, I'd suggest an assorted screwdriver kit like this. Not a sponsor of mine, I fix it, but I've had this little kit here for like at least 6 to 7 years now. It's been awesome to me. All right, so the board is now prepped and ready to go into the case. So yeah, without further ado, let's do it. All right, just coming in off camera. Here we go. So this case was talked about at the beginning of the stream. I think it was, who was talking about it again? Reluctant Hero. So this is a case that he eyeballed. This was one that that actually Blind Tech, who's in the chat right now, recommended. This was a stream about a month ago. Unfortunately, I tried to put that stream and this stream more closer together, but because I went to Hong Kong and been busy, yeah, so we're here now. But this was one, I think, if I recall correctly, Blind Tech recommended. What I was trying to find was, the it factors for resale, right? Because yes, I do have to resell these PCs because I pay for them out of my own pocket, and it just basically funnels back in the channel. But the idea here is I wanted some resale factor being, I want some fans. So let me put the main scene back on here, and I thought I was on there. So this one comes with 3 120mm fans that are also RGB up front. We'll see exactly how the control of the RGB is. Hopefully there's like a little controller, as well as one in the back. So we got 4, so it kind of meets those, what I'd say, those it factors for resale. So I'm targeting like a teenage kid that's looking to play Fortnite or something, and something that, would catch the eye. So as I think Tech Yes City would always say, LEDs sells PCs. So, and that's definitely been my experience with that so far. All right. Jasper, I'm just gonna have you plug everything in. Fair enough, fair enough. All right, so I'm going to get the back panel off here just to expose what we got out back. Looks like we've got some hardware here to take out. See what kind of accessory box. This is a pretty decent accessory box. It's got better than what I've seen before. Okay, nice. That's actually cool because I noticed this case does have the breakaway PCIe expansion brackets, but they provide actually two screw-in ones. Let me show you here where I got the overhead a little bit. So they provide some extras, like I guess one if you need to fill the space, obviously. And looks like some cable management stuff and even some radiator style screws and some zip ties. So not a bad little accessory kit, better than most that I've seen in this budget style. This case, by the way, I believe when I bought it was going for $60. I think when I checked it earlier today, it's still in around that price. So I would say a pretty bang for the buck, which looks like I was looking for a controller for the RGB and 4 RGB fans, all for $60. Not bad. Now I'm just kind of curious. Okay, it's got a reset switch that's plugged into the RGB controller, so that means our reset switch should control the RGBs. We'll see that in action as we get there. All right, so everything else, yeah, is ready. I'm gonna get the IO shield out so that way we can get that installed. This motherboard, being a very cheap one, does not come with a pre-built-in one. Like it says, yeah, multi-tool. Yeah, I got some multi-tools as well. Most of the time when it comes to building a PC, this is all you need, screwdriver. And this is a basic screwdriver I think I got from Be Quiet from buying one of their coolers. What I like about it is it's got a long shaft, you know, to reach down into the PC. But the coolest thing about it is it's pretty good quality and it's magnetic. So I definitely would suggest a magnetic screwdriver for anybody who's getting into building PCs. It helps with keeping track of your screws and you don't drop them and all that stuff. But multi-tool, yeah, I mean, I have those as well. I just don't really ever use it much when building PCs other than just the screwdriver. And we shouldn't need anything else either. Of course, now I say that and I'll probably need something that I haven't said that I needed. All right, so we got that in there. So basically, yeah, just kind of push that in there, make sure it kind of clicks in. Be careful with these types of IO shields. They are pretty sharp, so you definitely can't call yourself a PC builder if you haven't cut yourself on one of those yet. All right, so now I'm gonna lay the PC case down flat, so that way we can kind of see what we're up to here. Hypnotics asked, is this the Okinos case? Yes, the Okinos, what's the exact name of it? It's the Okinos Cypress 3. So I'll go back after building this PC in the description, link all the parts. And this won't be the final bit that you'll see with this PC. Actually, I'm going to, like in my typical fashion, we did a parts hunt. We're doing the build, and I'm going to then take this PC and benchmark it and show off all the titles and stuff. So this won't be the last bit, but we'll have one more quick follow-up video that's usually around a 10-minute video that I do that kind of just shows off what this PC is capable of. So if you guys are interested, not in just the build, but in its performance, then stay tuned. Within a week or so, I'm going to have that video out, and then you'll really see what it can do. But also to explain every single part, where I got it for, the price, all that stuff, so that way you guys can go do the same thing. But that's also why I'm explaining it as I go tonight. Alrighty. Let's actually double check. Make sure I've got the screw holes in the right places. It looks like so. I think I've got every standoff already pre-installed in the right place for a micro ATX motherboard, so we're just gonna drop this guy right on in. Double checking that as I do it, just to, yep, looks like they're all covered. Sweet, awesome. Mr. Rahane, sorry, I'm butchering names here. I'm trying to look quickly and build. He says, or a good plain knife if you don't have a multi-tool. Yeah, I mean, I do have a knife, yeah, so for opening stuff. So, Hyrule, what's up, man? LB, what do you think of pre-builts? He's referring to me as one of my gamer tags that I play. Pre-builts are fine. I don't really have anything that's totally against them. There used to be this really like heavy disdain about pre-builts where, oh my God, like you're gonna spend so much money doing a pre-built. It really just kind of depends on what you're after. Now there are some areas and there are some companies and vendor brands that do take shortcuts when it comes to pre-builts. It just like, you kind of have to be aware. Most people who don't know the industry, I guess, as well as I do, or some of the other folks in the chat might get, tricked or so. It's not necessarily a market about tricking people. It's like they got to make their money too. So there's very, very tight profit margins when it comes to building PCs and selling them as a company. So things that you'll typically see that they do is like they'll say I think the biggest ones are, they'll say, oh, I'll do overhead as an example. They'll say it comes with 16 gigs of RAM, but then instead, they'll only have, oops, we didn't have that tied down in there yet. They only have one stick of RAM installed in the motherboard, where they're leaving you in a single channel mode, which is performance detrimental. Not terribly bad, but it will be slightly performance detrimental, but that's kind of how they get around things. So that way, they kind of spread the load of their hardware, or they might use really cheap cases that are kind of sketchy, or some pre-builts are very boutique and very expensive. So it kind of depends on what you're after. Dude, if you're looking to get something new and you want to run some specs by me, feel free. By the way, I also have a Discord, guys, which I'm trying to keep up with, but that's also where I would like to direct people if they have questions like that. I know I got a couple of the guys that are in the chat too that are members of my Discord that would be able to help you guys on picking things out like that. If you come across a pre-built that you're thinking about buying, what I always say is put it in your cart and think about it. Don't buy it right away, and then come back a week or after you've had time to do research, and then decide, if you're doing things right. But for the most part, I'd say pre-builts are after good intentions. So I don't have a whole lot of bad things to say. I don't really particularly know of one that's really bad that's been in like the media here recently or anything like that. So couldn't really speak too much to that, other than what was that one back in like 2023? Trying to remember. It was more of a custom pre-built company. Some of like Starforge's employees picked up their employees, or some of Starforge PCs picked up some of their employees. I can't remember the name of that. I don't know if you guys know. The one dude that, he basically torched his entire career. He like screwed over some streamer or something. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I guess the guy was so douchey I didn't care to remember him. Maybe some of you guys know, but those would be the companies maybe to try to avoid, which again, it's like, how do you really know if you don't know? All right, dropping in the screws to get the motherboard set up in the case. So with this micro ATX, looks like we've got about 6. So I'm just going screw by screw here while I blabber on with you guys, making sure I pick up the right screws to do this. Blindtech says, as a PC flipper and tariffs may be temporarily paused for the certain things, I bought the USB 2.0 Type-C adapter off AliExpress, but yeah, okay. Yeah, the tariffs have definitely impacted things. It's made the market quite a bit more volatile in terms of what's available and what it's going for. That's kind of the nature of this live stream tonight, as well as just the theme of this overall build. I feel like I could have done better with $500 2 years ago in terms of overall quality of parts and maybe even performance. Like, probably if we didn't have all the crazy things going on right now, might have been able to get a 5600 in here, and that would be quite a bit of a performance uplift over this 4500. So, is what it is. We're just placating to the markets right now. Okay, so we've got all the screws in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, all 6 in. I think the only thing that really drives me nuts about this motherboard is this little 4-pin EPS. That's just kind of like, hey, look, I'm a cheap motherboard. So, Artesian Builds, that's what it was. Thanks, Mr. Yeah, I was trying, that was on the tip of my tongue. I knew it was like an A letter of some sort, but yeah, so if you're, I mean, that company went under, but those are the ones, like, kind of the more mainstream brands that I think of as far as the big ones for pre-builds. Cyber Power, like I mentioned, Starforge earlier, is a very much up-and-coming brand, but they seem to be really making a stamp in the market. They're supported by gamers, so like Asmongold and some of all the big-time WoW players, streamers, they're like owners within the company, and they've been putting out some really good products that even Linus Tech Tips gets his hands on. Even some of like the vendor pre-builds aren't terrible. Like even stuff that comes from like Dell, HP, Lenovo. They're probably not going to be the most pretty builds, but they're probably going to, if I were to say, probably have some of the better warranties and support, just because they've been around forever. I think Linus actually put out a recent Secret Shopper video not too long ago where he critiqued like the top 7 to 8 major ones. So if you're thinking about pre-builds, I would probably say those are the ones to target as the ones to go for, and then listen to the video and see what they have to say about it, because they critique every element of those pre-builds, build quality, shipping quality, customer support, all that stuff. So that's where they really lay it out there. So pretty neat. I like those series. I don't know if I finished watching. I think I did start the most recent one, but I usually try to watch those to kind of keep my ear to the ground on that type of stuff. So, all right, now I'm just getting all these extra screws like back into the screw bag here real quick. Yeah. BlindTech says, I built a PC yesterday and it's an i5 9600K, 16 gigs DDR4, 1 terabyte SSD, and an RTX 2060. Not bad, yeah. So i5, 9600K. Okay, so yeah, that's not bad. Now, kind of curious, what's your overall investment in that build, BlindTech? Sounds like you probably built that for less than this. A little bit older of a CPU, but not terribly old and still very capable. Supports Windows 11, so that's a big thing, because we're getting to the point in the fall where Windows 11 support is going to crush some of the older hardware in terms of being viable anymore. All right, just going off screen for a second. All right, so we are cruising right along. Got the motherboard in, so now I'm going to just spin the case around and get some of these cables untied and get them sorted out. Next thing we want to do is plug in the I/O, so meaning the RGB controller stuff, as well as USB and HD audio, all that. I usually do that first because they're much smaller cables that can kind of like be plugged in and then tucked away. And when we don't have a graphics card installed yet, it makes getting to this stuff way easier. Built it for less than 300, I remember. Oh, okay. Yeah, I bet BlindTech, you could probably sell that maybe for $450. I would at least start there, see what you can get out of it. It's also a scarce market for buyers, so people who want to buy stuff are looking to do it. It's kind of almost like the COVID markets all over again. All right, so we are bringing the HD audio through. That always goes into the kind of front part of the, or actually the back. We're looking at this. So like kind of the back bottom left part of the motherboard. And it's this group of pinouts right here. Very hard to capture on camera. Let me see if I can, since we're doing this, I'll go a little closer on the overhead. But right here is where we plug that guy in. So then I'm going to just tuck that cable away and pop this back up to find out what we need next. So that, this, I didn't realize that this case comes with USB-C. How nice. So there's a, let's see, the IO. Oh yeah, there it is. It's right here. Well, unfortunately, this being a very budget motherboard, that is kind of a extra premium feature for this kind of case. I'm a little surprised to see that at the $60 value. So I mean that thumbs up to Okinos for that. But I think most people that are going to be using this type of case are going to be building it in a budget sense where they probably won't have USB-C just like me. So unfortunately, this is just going to be a cable that gets tucked away and unused. We would need a brand new motherboard to be able to support that, unfortunately. And we need to spend more money. So anyway, all right, well, so we'll move on. Really not much left here. USB 3.0 header. So I'm gonna look where I can tuck that through. Where is that on the motherboard? Ooh, I do have one critique with this motherboard that I'm seeing now. Unless, I'm sorry, this case. Yep, nope. Okay, I'll show you here. The case does not have any pass-through here when it comes to 24 pin or this. Now it almost can, like if you really want to get, it doesn't seem like it's going to be too crazy to kind of bring the 24 pin down and this one up, but it looks like you might be able to, if you're really particular about the build, you might be able to undo these screws. Well, you'd probably have to undo most of them and pull the motherboard back a little bit and pull the cable through right here, but I don't like that. And you include USB-C, but you don't have a pass-through for your cables. Like, come on, man. Oh well. We'll see how it looks in the end. Maybe I'll redo it before I send it off to the seller or buyer. But for now, I'm just gonna go ahead and plug things in. We can probably pull these back and they won't look too bad. Yeah. Not amazing looking, but we'll see how this goes. All right, so last thing here is our front panel. So we've got power switch to plug in and the power LEDs. The LED indicators are always singular little tiny things. I'm gonna just bring that up right where we brought up the USB. Put it back down. And these always plug in really the same way. It's just a matter of finding where exactly it plugs in. Go full overhead. Yeah, okay. I am. All right, so let's start with power LED plus minus. Like twisted. Okay. Come on. I gotta find where it goes. Okay, it goes on these guys right here. I don't imagine you guys being able to really see this. Like, I can hardly see what I'm doing. But if you guys know building PCs, this is probably the most tiny little particular thing that you gotta do. And an easy area to screw up if you accidentally plug them in wrong. All right. So, put this back up. Neighbor closed his trash can. It sounded like a bomb went off. All right. So there we go. Looks okay-ish. Not a massive fan. I feel like that looks dark. I'm gonna probably increase the ISO on my camera real quick, just so that it's a little bit easier to see here. There we go. I'll make that a little bit easier to see inside the case. All right, there we go. So, all right. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. I think that could be done. At least these cables are flat, so I might end up doing that. I'm just not going to retract on that tonight. So, last thing here is to bring in our power supply. Since we got that already, and just kind of show this cable. Oh, let's double check. I'm just kind of looking at how all of the cabling works for the RGB controller. So it looks like, okay, it's got a okay, it's SATA power. There's that, and then it looks like, does this, okay, all LED. Okay, then it's just got, okay, power, so we can trying not to undo all of this because they got it all nicely tightly done there. There is a PWM power for the fans themselves, so I guess the SATA is probably only going to power the RGB if I were to guess. So this motherboard is going to be very low. Oh, we do have a chassis fan spot to plug this in, but I'm going to have to undo this. So I did find a chassis fan header down below, kind of down near the HD audio on this motherboard. Trying not to pull all of this out. So just gonna have to send this kind of rat's nest down and underneath. I'm guessing this is why this is here. Give us some control. So power for the LEDs and PWM for the fan spinning, the actual fans spinning the fans themselves. Yeah. Always an adventure to do some cable management, but not bad, not bad. Simple builds are kind of nice for that, where you can kind of just toss things where they need to go. All right, so on for power supply. Now, this is kind of one of my go-to power supplies. Basically, target anything, really, I would say, for a $500 build in this range, anything, if you can, do a tier C power supply, bronze and above. This is actually a 600 watt, this is a 600 watt gold, but from a Pivia. So I've used these plenty of times before. This is on the tier list, even checked with the new tier list from Zach's Tech Turf. So this is, which is actually, if you guys haven't seen his new tier list, which I believe we used in picking out this power supply in the previous live stream where we picked out the parts. Basically, you know, good power supply. It's not an overspend in terms of spending money on power supply. It's all we need. It's more than enough power than we need. 600 watts and it's gold, so it should be able to last us into possibly another GPU upgrade, as well as, you know, obviously being a trusted power supply that, you know, isn't going to explode on us. So those are all the good things. Let's get this guy open. Check out some comments here real quick. All right, so typical things here comes with, let's do a power cable. It's got some like texture on it. It's interesting. I haven't seen that before. But anyway, it's, you know, probably your typical 6-foot cable. Nothing to write home about this power supply in terms of features. Some thumb screws. So I guess that's a added feature versus just regular screws. But what I mean by that is it's just, you know, a non-modular power supply. I mean, beggars cannot be choosers at the $500 range, and this is a good power supply. So most of it's going to get tucked away and hidden anyway. So who really cares? But you know, we're not building a boutique, fancy PC. We're building a function over anything first PC. Plus with some LEDs, so it looks cool. But this is, as you can see, going to be a ton of power cables we're not going to use. Because all we really need is EPS power, motherboard power, GPU power, and just power for the LEDs, and that's it. Everything else is going to get kind of like shoved away. All right. Thanks for all the hearts that are flying. Appreciate it. Whoever's doing that. Okay, my RTX 3060 PC has been sitting for 2 weeks lately. Not 3060, I mean 37. Well, what happened? Is it, what's going on? Is you got a busted part there, Blind Tech, or what's going on there? That doesn't sound fun. All right, I'm just spaghettifying this power supply here, trying to map out what I need. All right, so I need motherboard power, PCIe power. There's another PCIe power, but I won't need that. That's if you got it. Oh wait, actually, should I daisy chain? The GPU has. It's gonna be too much. Yeah, it'll be fine. Well, I'll tell you what I mean when I get there. And then we should have. Where's the CPU power at? PCIe, is this CPU power? Looks like it's not labeled and it's split by 4. So always a good indicator to know if you got a PCIe power cable. It's does a 4x4 split on the 8-pin, which in our case, remember, we only need 4, but as opposed to a PCIe, it does a 6+2 split. So just a little tech tip for you guys. Trying to show you, there it is. Just trying to show you guys if you ever are trying to identify, even though this says it on it. A lot of times I've seen this too where CPU isn't labeled, but as you can see, the PCIe cable looks identical in terms of its look, but the way they split, CPU is always 4x4s, PCIe is always 6+2. Or with these more modern power supplies, they don't even use these types of PCIe cables. They use the 12 VH power guaranteed to burn down cables. I am plenty of fine. Thanks for asking there, Art OS. Feeling good. Just building a PC. All right. A little warm in my room because I've got lots of lights on and lots of PCs running, but aside from that, doing great. Just trying to organize this the way I need to go in here. All right, let's see if you guys can see this okay. All right, so we're sliding in the power supply fan side down because we do have a mesh filter and a little bit of a gap that's going to allow some airflow for the power supply to have its own little ecosystem to live in. This is a big power supply for this little case. There we go. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these thumb screws and get the power supply secured down before we start making all the cable runs. What are my thoughts on a 2070 GPU in 2025? I think that's fine, man. Completely fine. 2070, I think you can get, I did a little short video. 2070 you can get for, I think around, you can find those around like $170, $180 or so. So they're going to be a pretty decent, I mean, they're not going to be doing any of the fancy RTX DLSS things because that's also the first generation for that type of stuff. But if you're just looking for a cheap card to get gaming on 1080p, absolutely, completely fine. Nothing wrong with that. That thumb screw doesn't want to go in as easily. I'm just getting these thumb screws in since they kindly provided them with me. The screws to me. I'm gonna have to use the screwdriver on this one. And we'll just kind of give the other two a couple zip. All right, good, good, good. All right. Gameplay Kings, do you think it's worth it to get a used 7900 XT for $230, cheaper than a brand new 9070 XT? I mean, that's some big boy GPUs there. Let me think on that. So 7090 XT, 7900 XT, that's definitely, well, I mean, obviously it's last generation. And then I think, what is it, the 79, there's one more, I think 7950, right? XT, or no, 7900 XTX, that's what it was. So that was the king big dog of AMD's last generation card. So what, I haven't actually checked out the benchmarks, but if I were to guess, the 7900 XT runs pretty close to the performance of a 9070. AMD's even stated publicly that they're not going to go to the top tier model, so I think their biggest tier is the 9070. I've heard, I think, rumors of 9080, but don't expect 9090s, which would be, I guess, the 7900 or 990 is what I'm thinking. So whatever they're calling it these days, but I don't think they publicly stated that they're not going to make a top tier card that's going to compete with the likes of the RTX 5080, 5090. So I'd say it's a pretty good buy. $230 seems like a really good deal for that kind of card, honestly, like a really good deal. I'm surprised you're finding that cheap. So I guess it just depends on the type of gaming and or use that you're going to use for it, but I think those cards are pretty similar in performance. So if you're like me and not afraid to buy used to get some money savings, then go for it. And we'll double check that, but a 7900 XT is superior to 4070 Ti. Yeah, 4070 Ti is definitely going to fall a little bit shorter, I think, of the 7900 XT. I think when AMD came out with it, the 7900 XT and XTXs were made to target the 4080 and 4090s. Obviously fell short, as they've typically been doing, which is also why they've publicly stated, you know, we're done chasing this game. So is what it is, I guess. I wish AMD would be more competitive at the top end, so that way NVIDIA wouldn't just go nutso and charge $2,500, $3,000 for their top end card. Okay, so I got a little bit of a dilemma, I think. Yeah, I really don't want to send the 24 pin through here, which I can, because it will work. Well, actually, that doesn't look terrible. All right, we're gonna do it. I was thinking I could use this top one right here, but the 24 pin, even if I pull that little 4-pin separator part, I think, well, oh shoot, it does make it through. Yes. Never mind. Dilemma averted. Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna look any better in terms of like what people are aesthetically used to seeing. I just don't like these. I don't like it when you see these big giant like cable runs that into open space. So I think this will look okay. Like I said, I might change it. Just get on there for now. So what you just witnessed is me running the 24 pin up this direction instead of from here all the way over. So I don't know, what do you guys think? I mean, that's a lot of space to make up, and I feel like that would look way more ugly than just kind of quick run up to the top. Kind of looks clean that way. It's not bad. Not bad. All right. Yeah, ArtOS definitely brings up a good point. That is one thing I really like about AMD is they are not stingy on the VRAM, where NVIDIA seems to be really stingy about that. If you want a high VRAM card, you're basically paying for the top end cards, which is stupid. It's like, come on, like you can. Is the technology that you know untouchable still? I don't think so at all. I think that was the first time I've ever plugged in a 24 pin motherboard first before I did the EPS, the power EPS. So I've built so many PCs that I just found that kind of funny how I went to that. So I was just stuck blabbering with you guys. All right, trying to find the 24 pin or the EPS power. Here we go. Just dealing with a cluttered mess. The only downside to not having a modular power supply. So this guy, oh, it's $230 below MSRP, not $230. I was like, good Lord, man, catch that, buy it. Okay, I mean, it still seems like that's probably a pretty good deal. The 9070s though, I don't recall what they're going for in terms of their MSRPs. So $230 off of MSRP though, that sounds still pretty good. So this is what we're gonna be doing for the CPU power. I'm trying to plan this out a bit. Yeah, I'm gonna send this end forward, so that way this part of the back part of the daisy chain cable just rests on the back of the case, but I'm gonna split it apart too because I only need the 4-pin, so that way it doesn't look too janky. All right, well, you know what? Well, I need to split it apart a little bit just so I can plug it in, but I'm not really gonna be able to tuck it anywhere, and that was my original idea. And I just got to realizing too that I've got a fan cable here, another PWM fan cable I got to deal with, which I think I can daisy chain into the rest of those guys. I'm gonna have to double check on that in a minute. Let's go ahead and just get the CPU power plugged in for the moment. Figure out which ones we need to do. All right, I'm gonna just send it through and then we'll see. This part might be tough for you guys to keep track of here, but here we go. All right, then I'm gonna, all right, so the clip end is on the top. Okay, so hopefully I can just spin this around like this. Yeah, it's gonna be a little on the jank side. Oh wait, now like this. There we go. So only 4 pins need to go in. Hopefully the left side will work. Can't really see what I'm doing. Got a shadow that's tough to see. Alright. Yeah, it wanted the right side. Okay. Well, that's not too bad. I guess the fan helps tuck it away. So now I got the daisy chain part I need to send back to the back of the PC there. So stand it up and grab it here. Perfect. And then we can just tie that down, or even just bunch it in there for the moment. By the way, I just want to make a mention. I'm seeing some new faces in the stream, which is fantastic. Maybe the algorithm's doing nice things to me. So by the way, just want to say thanks for stopping in. Enjoying you guys interacting with the chat. That's what this is all about. We're just building a PC and hanging out and discussing tech stuff or answering questions or whatever. But I also want to make mention too that I think with some of the new faces is worth mentioning is not only do I build the PC in these streams, we test it. So we're going to make sure that it gets a post and gets into BIOS and all that. So the best is yet to come, and we're getting pretty close. As you can see, we're cabled up for the most part everywhere on our power supply. I do need to cable in the whatchamacallit, the RGB controller, and as well as get the GPU in slot. So let me actually take care of the minor things first before we get to the GPU, which I'm going to show you what I'm dealing with here. So I'm looking for, so originally, so this is the cable that came from the back fan, and then we ran a cable splitter. Do I have another split here? That's what I'm looking for, is another place to plug in this fan so that I can run all four fans off of one chassis header, which I'm thinking by the looks of things may not be the case. This might have to be its own singular run, which, yeah, because the daisy chained cable right here that I used before, this is for the 3 fans up front that's going to that chassis header. So I think I do have one more header though that I can deal with. It's kind of one of those ones that's kind of in a weird spot though, unless I got another one that I have not seen yet. Let's see here, what do we got? All right, so I used this one for the 3 fans. Get that kind of pointed down. This is looking funky. Is there another one? Sometimes you get lucky with the nicer motherboards. You'll have multiple fan plugins here up by the CPU cooler, but we don't have that. Now, to make things look really, really nice, could use another splitter and just get everything done. What I don't want to use is this one right here, but it looks like we're going to have to. The reason why I don't like using this one, which all motherboards seem to have, is you'll have this exposed cable, but if we run it first now and then put the GPU in, it shouldn't be visible at all. So we're going to do that real quick. If I got the cable length for it, we'll find out. This part might be tough for you guys to see. Oh yeah, I do. Awesome. So I just brought it through. Turn this around here. Let me get a little closer. So I just brought it underneath, and we've got just enough. Just enough. If I can plug it in correctly. Oh, I was going on the wrong pins. All right, so the idea with this is, let me actually reroute that behind the other one. Come on. All right. So like I said, the idea with this is once the GPU is in place, it's really going to be not very visible at all. If this was like a larger case, you would be able to see the run. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. We'll work with that. I think that'll be fine. Okay. Let's get the PCIe. Oh, Also got the SATA power for the RGB controller to do real quick. So that is this guy. So out of all these jumbled of cables, I'm going to try to manage this up a little bit here real quick. So got one group of cables, don't need. So if you're never going to use your hard drive, like 3.5 inch hard drive or 3.25 inch drive, it's a good spot for cable, man. Storing cables. Plus, it's actually twofold good spot reason, because it also leaves these cables accessible if the owner of this PC decides they're going to upgrade to some 2.5 inch storage or something like that, so they can just easily get to the cables. So I'm going to leave that as my justification for jamming them here too. All right. So then, now that we've got that jammed in there, where'd the cable go for the RGB controller? That allows us to easily just plug this in. Make sure you do it the right way. Got to flip this over. Make sure I am doing it the right way. Yeah, it's just pretty tight. There we go. Then we kind of shove that back as well. All right. As far as tying down the cables, yeah, there's not a whole lot of options to work with when it comes to cases like this. Just is what it is. So I'm going to kind of leave it as is for now. Cable management is not going to be in this live stream, unfortunately, because that could be another hour plus. I'm just going to take this extra PCIe cable and do the old shove as well. Yeah. And then what's left is our PCIe cable that we'll need for the graphics card, which got to figure out where I want to send it through. You got a lot of conversation here. Ardo says, well, the 9700 XT is a beast, even for 4K, and FSR4 compatibility makes it basically unkillable for the last 10 years. More, yeah, definitely the 9070 XT is a very, very strong card. I would definitely agree with you on that. And it's of the newest generation, so also consider that if you're looking at buying a new video card or putting some good money into one. I typically would then want to probably buy something that's relatively brand new, and from a personal standpoint, you know, so that's just what I would say is what I would shoot for. What's a great gaming and streaming motherboard I compare with a 9950X3D? Wow, that's a serious, very much different type of hardware that I'm dealing with right now. A motherboard? I would probably look at the X series motherboards if you're going that big on CPU yeah, CPU. So what is it X870 now that we're up to, or something like that? Man, I haven't built of that level in a while, or let me try to think, what is it, X670? Are we already up into the 800 models now for the latest AMD? I believe we are. I would definitely look at the X series that's compatible with that CPU. That's my opinion. B5, the B series will definitely do pretty well. There's nothing bad about them, but the X series typically have better offerings in terms of just overall better features, possibly dual BIOS. What else? They will have overall more like fan headers, better cooling, all that stuff. All right, now let's get our GPU. Okay, so for GPU, we've got, I made a little short video about this and it kind of popped off, which was pretty cool, but this is not the same GPU that I discovered in the live stream. And what happened with that is again, like I said, I didn't buy the equipment or the hardware right off the rip after the live stream, which I typically tend to be lazy about doing. And the prices, what we originally priced out the initial build to be was with a 6600 XT. So this is a 5700 XT. So we're taking one step down, kind of, so to speak, but kind of not so much. The 5700 XT is definitely a much more power hungry card, but they're very, very relatively close in terms of performance. They're really within like less than 10% of each other. Still, I would have preferred to have gone with the 6600 XT, but when it came time to buy, it was more specific to my time to buy, which was now almost a month ago, because I bought about a week after we did that live stream. They were going for like $200, $220, when originally I found it in the live stream for like $175 to $180, which now looking in retrospect today, they're back around $175, $180. So the market is really volatile. Now I know that's only like a $20 swing or so, but again, when you're building a $500 system, when the GPU shoots up to going from 170 up to 200 plus, well then now I'm breaking my budget. So I had to buy a card, and at that point I was thinking this could get even worse. So if I didn't buy even a 5700 XT right off the rip, we might have been in even stronger problem, which doesn't really seem like it's moved much since then. But if I could go back, I'd probably go buy the 6600 XT. But here we are. So just to call out that the 5700 XT is what's going in this system. But definitely be on the lookout for like 6600 XTs, which are very close in performance, as well as what we mentioned earlier is the from the RTX field, the 2070 is roughly close to that as well. So still, what the target bid is obviously for a $400 or $500 build is strictly 1080p gaming. So 5700 XT still got a lot of life to it. I can see hopefully as things cool down with the markets that these could be basically the RX 570 of COVID days for cheap GPUs. I could see these definitely getting well down around maybe like $100, $120 as the markets chill off. Hopefully they will. So I'm thinking this is going to be a really sweet spot graphics card for gamers. So it's what we ended up on. And Ardoa says it's actually better than the 6600 XT. Matter of fact, it's on par with. Yeah, it's an older generation. So if you're of generation age and features and all that is what you're after, then yeah. But this should be about a 10% faster card, give or take, from the 6600 XT. So performance-wise, I didn't really take a hit. It was just I'm calling it out because if you guys happen to be in the original live stream where we picked out parts, this isn't the same card we picked out because it was already gone, and then prices were going kind of crazy on me. So it just is what it is sometimes with hardware. I feel like we haven't been able to catch a break on stuff in 5 to 7 years with all the volatile things that are going on in the world. All right, so we're gonna get this sucker in. I'm just double checking which PCIe expansion brackets I need to remove because these are the breakaway ones. So you want to double check, triple check. So I need to remove 2 and 3 to get this GPU in. So I'll kind of pivot my camera in a way where you guys can see me doing that. These I just kind of push on it until they kind of start to give way. Definitely the telltale signs of a cheap PC case, but is what it is. Yeah, like the whole frame is bending around a little bit, but is what it is. This one is pretty in there. And bend that out the way a little bit. Come on, get out of there. There that goes. Just kind of wiggle it back and forth until it gives way. Basically like a little, not even a spot weld. That's probably just, I don't know how they get that in there like that. Probably soldered on there, so it's easy to remove. This is probably one of the tougher ones that I've done though. Try not to disform the back of the case while I do it. All right, so as mentioned, these things, they just come out, and I just kind of bent that one away to get it out there. So I don't like dealing with those, but that's, like I said, what you deal with when, you're dealing with a budget build. So now, Another thing to mention too is the power delivery on this 5700 XT is a 8-pin plus 6-pin. You're perfectly fine with using the daisy chain cable for a graphics card like this. I wouldn't probably go too much really beyond that when it comes to using the daisy chain cable. The reason why I'm not using the other PCIe cable is just because, just for aesthetics really. So otherwise I'd have another cable running, but this isn't a card that's going to overdraw that cable and cause any kind of worries with that. So we're just going to use it and try to make it pretty. Now I think about it, it might look uglier as I use the daisy chain, because it's going to kind of stick out funky. I'm going to run the other cable, and that way we'll have the cleanest power delivery for this GPU possible. Let me pull that other cable out of here. And I guess if whoever gets a hold of this PC, then, you know, the PCIe cable, both of them will be hanging out. So I'd imagine if they upgraded, they might need it too. So it'll be ready for them. Almost 20 viewers, nice. I think that's been pretty, that's a good number for me. Awesome. Thanks for keeping an eye on that for me, sir. All right, so we're not using the daisy chains. We're using the two separate cables. We're being good PC builders here, and we're not taking side shortcuts. All right, so this will be interesting. How okay? It's the GPU in. So we're going in. I'm trying not to also catch the cable, that fan cable in between the. There we go. All right, 3, 2, 1. Get in there. The USB 3.0 cable is fighting on me a little bit because of the way it's ran, but it actually hides a lot of that cable run, which kind of makes it look relatively clean. I mean, for a cheap build, I'm just cable managing this CPU cooler cable because it's driving me nuts. This doesn't look all that bad. All right, so now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna turn the up on the overhead here. So now we've been a good boy and did not use the daisy chain. Now what I was talking about earlier with 6 plus 8, so this side needs 6, this side needs 8. So I'm gonna peel one back. These things are pretty tough when the power supply is brand new. Yeah. Come on, that sucker's on there. My goodness. Can I just plug it in and not break it away? I think I can actually. Even better. This is just gonna hang off to the side. All right, we'll do that. All that effort for no reason. Maybe? Yeah, no, we still need to break it away. Come on. There it goes. That was really tough. All right, so 6 in, and then what I like to do with this little guy that just sticks out there, I just kind of bend it back towards the card a little bit, so it looks like it's plugged in. You know, give it a good looking aesthetic. Then I'm going to bend the daisy chain part back. So really it's going to look like this GPU has like 4 cables plugged into it. Maybe that'll make it look cool in terms of presumed beefiness of power, but it's not really using all 4 or anything like that. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just goofing. All right. Cool. All right. So those are tight. So the daisy chains are just kind of laying down, and I'm going to leave it at that because once the PC stood up, I'll probably tie them all together. But once the PC stood up, you really can't see it at all. So there's a good look at that for you. I realized I forgot to screw my card down, GPU down. Let me Holes weren't lined up. All right, so let's grab a couple screws from the goodie bag. I think the 8-1 goes in the 6, yeah. We'll make it work. And the amount of effort I was putting into it felt like it was. This is gonna go that way. All right, so I got a couple screws to zip in the graphics card. We're almost there, guys. Screw it in. I always tend to screw the bottom one in first. That way it kind of gets the GPU where it needs to be in terms of its balancing point inside the case. And the top one is just basically extra security. Technically, with this one in there, it ain't going anywhere. And everything's so tight in there. Anyway. All right. Screwing this guy in. Kind of having to thread the threads as we go with this kind of cheap case. All right. So then this little latch thing just slides back and forth. Just a little kind of like dust cover for the GPU and I guess extra assurance of rigidity. So it's in there. We're good. That's it. If I plugged in everything right, that should be it anyway. But there we go. I think aesthetic wise, it's looking pretty darn good. Not bad as far as like the silvers with the RAM. There's not a whole lot of RGB components that's going to be happening other than the fans. No fancy CPU cooler. Again, like we talked about, I don't really need it. This is a very, very entry-level budget PC. Doesn't get too much cheaper than this unless you're really kind of like buying, like I would say, scrap parts in terms of like Facebook Market, buying stuff cheap and used, like what Blind Tech was talking about. He'll flip them, like, because he's buying the parts like all used and he's going for maximum profit, which is fun to do. I've actually done a lot of that. It's fun because that's where you can make the most money. Getting a good deal on the parts and then being able to sell it for good value. This is more of an example build for you guys where I'm using the least amount of used hardware as I possibly can to give you a good sense of a brand new fresh build that's still, you know, a good entry level performer. So with all that said and what I said before, it's time to make sure this thing actually works. So I'll grab my monitor from here. I clear off the table just a little bit. Get this set up live action with you guys. So I got a monitor with, it's just a little portable monitor. Plug this into the HDMI of the GPU and get some power for both the monitor and the PC. Where is, I gotta find a power block for the monitor. That's not gonna work. I need a longer cable. This one looks good, maybe. Yep, okay. I think this should work. No, what's actually awesome about this monitor is it's so low powered. Actually, I don't even need a power brick. Of course, I'm going to say this and, you know, jinx myself. It can be powered via USB power. So like if these monitors are nifty for like a small system though, that you can bring with you, that you can power it basically by the system itself. So we're going to put that to the test right now. I'm just plugging in a USB-C cable on the monitor side and a USB-A type on the PC. So we'll see if this, did it give it power? Oh, let me flip the power switch on and see if it gave it power. I think it's, well, I might have like a data cable. Oh, there it goes. There, ha. All right, so I guess that's one indicator that power is moving through the system, because in order for that to happen, I mean the power supply has to deliver power to the motherboard, and the motherboard just delivered power to my monitor. So there's one good sign. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's see if this guy boots up perfectly. 3, 4 spinning fans. Got some LEDs going. Power switch on. Let's actually see what it looks like there. There we go. Not bad. And then we can play with the colors. Yeah, just kind of the reset button cycles it through a bunch of stuff. I think we just got to post. Yep, we did. I was looking at my my OBS screen. So yeah, that was actually pretty quick. Yeah, so it wants to reset the TPM. So let's see, can I plug in my wireless USB? Sometimes this doesn't work before you boot into Windows. This is for my keyboard. We'll just hit Y. Now, I gotta get a wired in keyboard. Let me grab that real quick so we can see the full experience here. Get my giant old Corsair K100 mechanical keyboard. It's recently upgraded to a big boy keyboard, a Keychron keyboard, and man, I'm never looking at a keyboard like this from like a big brand like Corsair or NZXT or whatever ever again. That Keychron is amazing. So let's just plug this in so we can get into the BIOS menu. Which one is this? So pass-through UPS and power USB. Okay, so this should power the keyboard. Let's put it up here. It's fine. Never plug in USB right the first time ever. All right, there we go. So we just want to hit Y. There we go. Now let's do a quick little reboot. Get back into our main BIOS menu. ArtOS says, and funny enough, I have the same build, 650 watt MSI, RX 5700 XT, B450. That's hilarious. So, yeah, what do you think about it? Like, I think it'll be a pretty good little 1080p gaming machine for some teenager that's looking to get into Fortnite and Call of Duty and all that stuff. So it looks like we got some stuff coming up here. Let's probably do some memory training. I can't really see it too well. I'll come around. All these lights in my face. I got some kind of indicator here on the screen. Reset button, cycle those LEDs a little more. Looks like a lot of options. It seems like it's getting stuck. It's kind of hung up here. I'll give it 2 more seconds. Then I might just power it off and power it back on. I don't know if it's like janky power from... Maybe I should have plugged in the power brick to the monitor. Seems okay. Let's do a power off. I did get a FTPM indicator, so that should have done it as far as being good. But let's double check. I just want to make sure it gets into BIOS. Unless, no, that wouldn't have popped up if the CPU wasn't good. Oh, wait, I think I just saw something. Checking my OBS screen. Yes, yes, yes. Stuck in a black screen again. Well, I wonder, do I need to flash some BIOS on this motherboard? Although it says Ryzen 5000 ready. I didn't even, that didn't even approach my mind as being a thing. Yeah, Ryzen 5000 ready. Yeah, maybe this needs a specific, well, it depends on, well, if it's 5000 ready, it should be a pretty up-to-date BIOS. I got the FTPM. I don't think I would have gotten that if the BIOS wasn't going to allow for it, but it's also the perk, the non-perk, the lack of a perk of having a motherboard that has no debug indicators. So that's what you get with a cheap motherboard. But yeah, I think I'm stuck in some screen here. Let me try Control Alt Delete. F10. Escape. Yeah. Well, this is interesting. So even though I said we test the PCs, I didn't say it was going to go 100% every single time. But I'm kind of curious because I got that FTPM indicator. That should... I don't think I would have gotten that at all if the BIOS needed it, but that is weird. Let's do the old power off, unplug, hit the power button a few times, drain the capacitors. Put the power back in, turn it back on, power it back on. I'm also going to try reseating memory too. Yep, it's right back to, so there's like, I don't know if you guys can see it, there is a little indicator right here on the screen. Nothing else. It wouldn't be the first time I've used some RAM too that sometimes motherboards just don't like. So I'm curious. I'm going to take one out. So now this has turned into a little bit of troubleshooting. I'm not going to take this too far because we're coming up on an hour and a half plus of the stream. If I do find out, if I can't figure out what it is right here, right now, I'm definitely gonna make a follow-up little short video or something. All right, that's one stick out. Let's see if that does anything for us. Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, Art. Like, it should be. Yeah, it's detecting an HDMI signal. And it's just giving me this flat black indicator there. Or a little white indicator on the black screen. Enter. Delete. Escape. Keyboard's powered up. Let's see. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to throw some different RAM in it. Throw some G-Skill. Let's see, maybe, what's this? I've got a non-RGB, I think, G-Skill memory module here in a HyperX. Let's see, make sure this isn't, let's go with something that seems a little less flashy. Let's go with this HyperX memory module first. Go that way. Oh, no, he wants to go that way. All right, let's see what that does. Still find that really interesting how it got as far as it got, but then bleh, nothing. See. Same thing. Well, I'll have to do some research on this. It could be maybe a very specific BIOS version without going to MSI's website right now. This keyboard is dusty. I'm not entirely sure what is the cause of this. My best guess here is I'm pretty sure the motherboard should support the 4500 series CPU. If not, that was a big miss on my end. We got that FTPM indicator, so that would seem to me like that should mean it should support it. But yeah, maybe it's just a BIOS version that is not compatible right now, so it's falling flat. I do have some other CPUs I could try on this motherboard too. I could be the motherboard too, who knows. It is a used motherboard after all, but this is also kind of why I like to do these tests. Sorry, I got like dust bunnies flying around from this keyboard. That's why I think it adds a little bit of extra interesting aspect to these streams, because they don't go perfect every single time. I've had some failures, and here is another one. So that I'll have to rectify, but at least we got some cool LEDs. Ooh. So, I don't know. Anywho, I guess at this point, guys, stay tuned. I'm going to probably take this offline, do some research to figure out exactly what is the cause, because at this point, I don't really know unless anybody's got some really quick, fast ideas, but some kind of incompatibility seems like is going on, and I'll have to kind of pick my battles with that. Anywho, thanks for everybody tuning in, though. I've got some new faces tonight, which is really awesome to see. Hope to see you guys back in the next follow-up videos, because remember, I'm going to get this fixed, whether it's buying a new motherboard or whatever. So I got some things for you guys to keep you on the edge of your seats about. And then we also got to benchmark this guy. So I'm pretty sure everything is good. If anything, maybe it's just a motherboard issue or just a BIOS incompatibility, which should be easy to fix because I can use some other CPUs to fix that. So anywho, like I mentioned, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate your guys' time, and stay tuned for the next ones to come. All right, take it easy, guys. Thanks a lot.